would like to ask the town attorney to lead us in a short prayer. Seeing no objection,
Let us pray. We thank you for this day and thank you for your presence here with us tonight. We ask your guidance upon this meeting so that the needs of our community will be met and for your blessing on all the citizens of the town. Amen.
and now we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. We will get started with the meeting now. First of all, roll call of members. Rather than calling everyone's name, we'll just announce that Gary Sleeper is not here tonight. He's on vacation in Florida. I hope it's raining on him. It's the only announcement of absences. Do we have any additions to the agenda?
I believe there are two resolutions, Resolution 15-13 and 16-13. Is there a motion to amend the agenda as presented?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Next, we will have an approval of the agenda as amended. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Next is the approval of the minutes. First ones are the minutes of the regular town council meeting, December 13th, 2012.
Mr. Hand, you could approve them all at the same time if you would like.
Okay, we will approve them all at the same time if we could.
So moved.
Now, let me read it. December 13th, regular meeting, a special meeting held on December 20th, 2012, and the regular town council meeting, January 10th, 2013. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Do we have any council announcements tonight?
Mr. Mayor, if I might.
Yes.
I was actually going to wait till my economic development presentation to bring this up, but it's kind of separate and apart, even though it pertains to a current proposal pending before the town. The town manager recently shared a letter with me, written anonymously, in which I was personally attacked, related to my alleged personal agenda related to the Paul Stefan Foundation proposal. And I just want to make it crystal clear to anyone that has any concerns about that. One, I did not even know the existence of the Paul Stefan Foundation prior to them contacting us with this proposal. Two, I currently have no personal relationship with the Roman Catholic Church or St. Elizabeth's Church. And three, I do not stand to benefit in any way, personally or financially, from the outcome of this project. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, any other council announcements? I would like to refresh everybody's memory. We had a work session, our first work session of the year, a couple of weeks ago. It extended over a 2-day period. We got through a lot of issues, and we changed the way we kind of do things. Instead of having separate committees, we have points of contact, and we have an open work session where it's not set. The first 30 minutes is just for budget, the second 30 minutes for public safety. It's just a general work session that we can all get together, the public can come in and give their comments on things, and I think our first one went very well.
We even had a lot of fun at the end.
Absolutely. All right, is there any unfinished business? Seeing none, we'll move into review business.
Mr. Hand,
Yes.
are there any presentations?
I'm not aware of any.
Yes, we have a presentation from Whitestone, which is one of the companies that proposed the review process. And we have Holly and Doug White. Come up with Mike.
Thank you very much for having us here this evening. We're Doug and Polly White with Whitestone Partners. We've been asked to say a little bit about ourselves. That's actually kind of an awkward position for us to be in. It's a little awkward to talk about yourselves. Fortunately, there's two of us, so I can talk about her, she can talk about me. We do that quite a lot anyway.
That makes it just a little bit easier, and I guess we're addressing the council, so it seems funny though to have the town behind us. But anyway, we'll address the council. So we're Doug and Polly White. Now, a little bit about Doug, just to give you a sense of who he is and what our background is. Doug's a Virginia boy, born and raised in Mechanicsville, went to Randolph-Macon College, where he did a BS in physics. Then he went on to Georgia Tech and did a bachelor's and a master's degree in mechanical engineering, graduating with honors, and then went on to Harvard and did his MBA from Harvard Business School with distinction.
Now, Polly is almost a Virginia girl. You see, she moved here, she was born in Minnesota, moved here when she was 15. I think with another 10 or 20 years, she'll actually be a Virginian. We're thinking that's the way it is. Polly did her bachelor's degree at Averett University, where she did quite well. She finished #1 in her class. She then went on to do her master's degree in human resource development at the George Washington University.
Right, now, just a little bit of what we do as consultants. Douglas's areas of expertise are really operations and finance and strategy. And he spends most of his time with our clients working in those areas, although we do cross over a little bit when we're working with clients. I'll work with strategy, he also works in the people management area. But Doug has, since he came out of business school, he went to work with McKinsey, which is a large consulting firm. And then after McKinsey was really running businesses, he ran several manufacturing businesses. He's done a startup for a manufacturing business, has worked in the financial services industry, usually as CEO or COO of the organization. And then about 3 years ago came into the consulting business with me.
Now, as Polly mentioned, my areas of focus are strategy, operations, and finance. Polly's focus is human resources and people management. So if you take the two of us together, you almost get a complete executive. So Polly, when she graduated and came out of school, was actually the head of human resources at 3 different mid-sized businesses in the Richmond area. And in that, she dealt with all sorts of people. She left that about 11 years ago and started her own human resources consulting firm. In that, what she did was an awful lot of training, particularly with a large number of the Fortune 500 companies in the Richmond area. So she's done work for Genworth and CarMax and the Fed Reserve and
Philip Morris and Altria and Bon Secours and pretty much everybody of any size in the Richmond area.
About 3 years ago, the two of us decided to hook up together and start Whitestone Partners. We have worked primarily with businesses. We have not done a lot of work with municipal governments, did some work many, many years ago with the city of Richmond. So we haven't done a lot of work with municipalities. And we'll be counting on you folks to help us out and help us understand how things get done. And let's be clear, you know how things are done in this town a whole lot better than we're ever going to know. But the sort of things that we'll be doing with you are things that we've done many, many times. And our experience has been, whether it's working with for-profit businesses or nonprofit organizations, people are people.
Right. The way you go about getting things done, the way you motivate employees, the way you measure performance, the way you create efficiencies are pretty much the same. We've worked with companies, both for-profit and not-for-profit, across a wide variety of industries, and I will tell you that at the bottom line, it's all the same. People are people. The way you get things done is pretty much. Now, you may have different rules. You may have different procedures, but at the bottom of it, it's always people who are getting things done, and people are people.
We're really looking forward to the prospect of working with you. We've probably said about enough about ourselves, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone has, if that's okay with the town council.
If anyone has any questions, feel free.
That's what we came for tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
How much of an interruption will this be for our town staff?
Well, we certainly will try to keep it to a minimum. We'll make our schedule flexible to work around their schedule. We will need to have some time with them. We've got an hour interview that we'd like to schedule with the key folks, including town council members. Depending on how far we go in the process, there are a couple of places where we'd like to have an off-site, a planning meeting. There's an assessment we'd like to ask folks to take. So there will be some time requirement, but we absolutely try to keep it to a minimum to not disrupt any of the activities of the town.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you say that you will be talking to ICE and management, will you also be talking to the folks in the field?
Right now, the proposal that we have given is to start with management. However, there is a survey component that we have asked the town to consider, which would be directly getting information from all of the municipal employees, and would also have a component in it that isn't just check the box, but a comment section where people could comment anonymously about things.
And I'll add to that by saying that it's our intention to be flexible. So if we get into things and we need to move in one direction or another, expand things or truncate things, we're certainly willing to do that. Our interest is in doing what's necessary to help this town move forward. And we'll do whatever that is. Yes, sir.
Will you be identifying and talking to the customers of the various executives, both inside the city and outside?
That would be a very interesting idea and could be brought in with a survey component. And again, we would be taking direction from the town council. If that was something that they wanted us to include in the scope of what we're doing, we'd be happy to do that.
In my experience, that is a good thing to do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I also urge all the folks out in the audience that if you have a question, and you probably maybe embarrassed may not be the word, to ask it up here today, please call your town councilman, give them the question, or send them an email. Town hall can give you our email address, but please don't answer question on topics because it won't get answered.
Is there anything else we can answer?
I had a question and it left me, and since I'm the youngest, it's kind of embarrassing.
Well, now you know what happened to the rest of us. I had a question too, but I just went someplace.
I have a question. In your proposal, you talked about several different steps of the process. How far would that process go where you would interview all the employees, top and at what stage of that process would you be at?
The first step of the proposal that we asked to do was to talk to the town council and the senior leadership of the town. But about the third step down is the survey component. Now, right now, there isn't anything in the proposal for talking to the customers or talking to some of the staff of the government. But again, we'd be happy to work something like that. Yeah, it really depends on what your town wants. We put forth a proposal, and that's what proposals are. Just that they can be approved, they can be amended, as you know.
And one more question.
Sure.
In your proposal, you said that Colonial Beach had a staff of about 250 people, which is incorrect. I believe it's around 50. Would that change the cost of your proposal?
In the survey component, it would, because it would be a little bit smaller. Not by much, because some of the cost of the survey is creating the survey and doing the data analysis. But the numbers of surveys that would have to be taken out of the tally, yes, that would.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I think this is what I was going to ask.
Okay, sure.
Well, if you could elaborate a little bit for our benefit as well as for the benefit of the audience on how much experience you have in dealing with this type of environment, and whether or not there's been any indication of the success of this type of effort and where it's led those communities when you've dealt with them in the past.
So as we mentioned during our initial comments, we've not worked with municipal governments before.
Okay.
We did do some work with the city of Richmond many, many years ago, but it wasn't this type of an arrangement. The work that we did was directly for the city manager, and that's been many, many years ago. So we haven't worked with municipalities. However, we have worked with boards. I serve as a trustee at Randolph-Macon College. I work with the board there quite frequently. There's a lot of experience with that. Worked with the boards of companies. So we've certainly had those kinds of experiences.
Right, and we've also worked with large nonprofits. While it is our policy not to say the names of our clients unless they give us permission, we wouldn't even say the name of the town,
Right.
when we were talking to other people and said, well, we're talking to a town. We wouldn't tell them the name of the town until we get permission from the town to talk about it. But, so I'm not gonna say the name of the nonprofit, but recently, in the last couple of years, we were hired by a very large nonprofit in the Richmond area to look at their senior leadership, to do almost exactly the same thing that we're doing or have proposed to do here. We did a survey of all of their employees that were within the state and outside of the state. We did interviews with more than 20 people, including their customers, their volunteers, the leadership. We did assessments on the senior leadership. And then we put this all together into an opinion and a report to their board of trustees. Because they were trying to decide, now this is a different situation, let me make this clear, than what we have here. Here, we're talking about, as a group, moving the group forward. There, they were trying to make a decision on whether to keep the original founder of the nonprofit, or to have that position taken over by a professional management staff.
And with regard to your question about success, we did make our recommendation. The board took the action that they took, and the nonprofit has moved forward very successfully since then.
The reason I ask is because one of the things that seems to be gathering steam is urging governments to take more of a corporate approach, and because there's a pretty big industry and various consulting groups, and they pretty much exist to help governments justify what they're doing versus looking for another way. And it sounds to me, I'm actually interested in somebody that has a corporate approach versus a bureaucratic approach. And that's, I'm hoping that's where this goes.
Great.
Okay. Jim, did you think of your question?
I got a couple of questions.
Okay, go ahead.
The benefits of, what have your experience been, the benefits in the areas of like credibility, the morale for the people that work in that organization, the cost and the teamwork approach? How does that play into all of this?
I think it's critically important. We have spent an awful lot of time thinking about how you motivate people. How do you have people in an organization come together and work together? And in our experience, it takes three things that are very important. And that is that people want to be a recognized, contributing member of a winning team. So let me just walk through those. The first is a winning team. People want to feel that the organization that they're a part of is succeeding, that it's moving in the right direction, that it's accomplishing things. The second thing is they like to feel that the thing that they're doing is contributing to that success. So it's important to make sure that you draw that connection. And finally, they like to have their contribution recognized. For us, that's really one of the most important things in motivating people, whether they happen to be employees of a municipal government or of a company.
Right, so we look at a lot of different ways. Now, obviously, depending on what the structure of the compensation system is, there can be monetary compensation, monetary rewards. That's not necessarily right for all organizations. Not all organizations can do that, but there are a lot of other non-monetary types of things that you can do to motivate people. Frankly, just having that winning team, feeling excited about what you are going to do because we're actually making progress, you can see things getting done, you can tell there's a difference, gets people more excited about what it is that they're doing every day. You have to keep that kind of momentum going in any kind of job, because otherwise things can get really stale for people when it's just the same thing over and over again.
Do you find that after organizations have gone through this process, they feel like they can set priorities better and meet those priorities?
Well, we focus a lot, and you saw it in our proposal, we focus a lot on goal achievement. It's putting together a plan that is realistic and achievable. It's making sure that each component of that plan is broken down to having one person assigned to each component with a date assigned to when that component is going to get done, and then driving for those results. You find that when people are moving in that kind of direction, that things get checked off the list and stuff starts happening and the momentum starts going. So yes, we've had a lot of success with goal achievement. That is something that we do with all of our clients that we are working in any way with strategy or goal achievement with, and that's, I've got to tell you, most of our clients.
We find that it's really not rocket science. You set a goal, you put together a plan to achieve the goal, you hold one person and one person only accountable for that, you make sure that he or she has the resources that they need to be successful. You assign a deadline, and then you monitor progress. If you're making progress towards the goal, great. If you're not, at some point you may need to step back, perhaps the goal needs to be adjusted, perhaps you need to adjust the plan to achieve the goal. It's a fairly straightforward process, but we found it to be very, very successful.
So you try to teach people to coach for success.
Well, actually, one of the things that we always say is management is cause, all else is effect. And so we start usually with the senior leadership team because success is driven down from that. So if they're on board and they've got their goals, it'll push down through the organization. The other thing that we always do is we have definitely a teach a man to fish mentality. For instance, in the job description part of our proposal that we gave to you, it didn't say, sit down and talk to all your people and then we're going to write the job descriptions. It said, we would work with your people to write legal and effective job descriptions. We will teach them how to do it so that they can drive that same process down throughout their organization, so that you don't have us sitting around writing job descriptions for you, you know how to do it yourself.
Well, we believe very strongly in the old proverb, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Our goal is not to cause organizations, this town or any of our other clients, to become dependent on us. It's for us to help them make it to the next step so that they can carry on their own.
We like our clients to graduate.
Anybody else have any questions?
Well, I one more.
Sure.
What you said had an idea, kind of a question. Correct me if I don't have this quite right, but it almost seems as if one of the things that you have found over time is that in getting employees and management to self-describe not only their job, what they perceive as their job, but how they're doing it, and then lay that against what the employer thinks it should be. Just have those two sorted out, it's half the battle.
It can be a very useful exercise in finding where there's gaps, yes.
Right.
What we talk about with businesses, process documentation, where we actually have people write down the way they do things. And one of the things we always tell folks is, if you want to know what gets done, don't go talk to the manager or the supervisor, go talk to the person who's doing the job.
Right.
Because what the manager or supervisor thinks may be fundamentally different from what's actually happening on the floor.
Right.
You have a question? Just to go through a few other issues, and this is just a formality. Have you met any of us on this council before?
So,
Before you gave the proposal?
Oh, no.
Any interactions at all?
Well,
Okay.
you know, we were, obviously were contacted by a member of the town council, otherwise we wouldn't have known about it. But we did not meet with the town council at large. We have not known anybody except for being contacted for this specific work before this. So no, we have no relationship with anybody on the town council.
And just for the record, so people can understand the process, the people on this council that you've elected are trying to behave responsibly. We saw a need, we tried to fill the need. We went through every single process that we have. We have a procurement process. We had a work session where we kind of took a consensus on things, that we were going in the right direction. We weren't finished. We obtained 3 bids. We didn't just look at 3 companies. There were quite a few companies that we looked at. Some could not perform the test that we wanted. Some would not perform, and some didn't respond. And that's just the way it went. We did our diligence, and we just want to be transparent about that. We have no special interest other than making the town of Colonial Beach a better place to live. The people who work here feel very good about what they do.
Anybody else have any questions? Pat, we thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. We are very excited about the possibility of working with you.
Hey, thanks for coming here on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, well, I got to be with my Valentine.
Thank you.
Well, while we're on presentations, I'd like to ask the Westmoreland Supervisor, Mr. Roberson, if he has anything.
Well, 2 issues I'm concerned about. Last month I gave you a check for $83,000 for the sewer system, but then later on I was told that I said that was the last payment. That was not the last payment, never was supposed to be the last payment. Someone wasn't hearing or added their own little 2 cents to it. There is a payment plan, we paid that one off early, is what we did on that. Second one was, I suggested that the county, and you all asked about the county helping with the sediment and soil and stuff like that. Well, now it's been back to me by the county that I said it would be for free. I never said it was for free. You have to get a permit, just like a building permit, a zoning permit, and you get one from the county or from the town. There's a fee involved with that. To be honest, I think that's the best way to do it, is let the county handle it, because the new regulations and everything are going to come into effect, and the county then has to do it, and you just pay their fee like you do with the building inspection and everything else. And to add to it a fee for like building, zoning, and soil and stuff, guys, that only covers about half what the department costs to operate a year. The fees do not pay for the whole amount, you know, and the county can absorb a whole lot better than the town can. Next is that the bridge, they tell me, is on schedule. Don't ask me what schedule means, because they just say it's on schedule and everything's fine. Mr. Rasavi, as the mayor who was down at the meeting, and I thank him for coming, and he gives a presentation to the county each time he comes. We told all department heads to look at a no increase for next year's budget and even a 5% decrease. Prepare 2 budgets. One at 5% decrease, one at 0. Because we have no earthly idea what the federal government's going to do or anything like that. So that's where we're starting with that type of budget program. I think it's great though that we are trying to, the town and the county work together on several issues. It's been a while since I've seen that. I've tried very hard to get them to do that, and hopefully we can continue. There's a little trust factor on both sides. I understand that over a lot of years of problems back and forth, but I hope that we can put all that aside and work together and for the betterment of the town. And I've said this many times, 99.9% what's good for the town also benefits the county. You know, we get more housing here, hey, the county gets more tax dollars. You know, it's a win-win. So, unless you got any questions, I'm finished.
Anybody have any questions? Okay.
I'd just like to say, Mr. Overson, that the council is excited also about working with the county.
I found them to be very cooperative,
They,
and we're delighted to do it.
very good, thank you, I appreciate that.
No other questions? Next, I'd like to ask Ms. Kathleen Bean, Superintendent of Colonial Beach Schools, if she has anything to present.
No, I'm just glad to be here.
Okay. Next, I'd like to ask the town manager if she has anything she'd like to bring forth.
And not at this time, Mr. Mayor, I'm reserving everything for the work session.
Okay. And lastly, I will ask the Chief Say if he has anything to bring forward.
Yeah, I'd like to let the public know that we are vigorously out here attacking a lot of these street lights that have been out for a long time in this town. The guys are out here identifying the lights that are out, generating lists. The light lists are going to the town manager, and as I speak, I understand work orders have been written, and Dominion Power is actually out here trying to get some more lights out here. That's something that we just recently got back into, and we will continue to do that. We've got lights out here. We pay the VEPCO bill, we may as well have the lights burning. So that will be a continuous effort throughout all the years.
On the note on street lights, so there's ones on the boardwalk wired in yet?
They're wired in and they'll be activated. They're not activated as of today, by early next week. We have one pole that's slightly off that Mr. Chiro identified to us, and I've got a work order. They're coming to either replace or repair that, and then they'll be activated.
Okay, I think that does it for presentations. Next on the agenda is, I lost my agenda. We had no unfinished business. We will get now into the new business. First thing we have on there is Resolution 11-13, Amendment of Fiscal Year 2012-13 Utility Fund Budget. Basically, this is an amendment to add the $83,070.69. Mr. Robertson brought us at the last meeting. We have to amend the budget to actually put it in there. So, with that, do I hear a motion?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
And it is the recent payment.
All right, there's more to come.
There's more coming.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Next on the agenda is Resolution 12-13, approving an ethical GPS. This is a product that's put out by the state of Virginia. I think VML puts it out, don't they?
Yes.
And if I could ask Mr. Trillo, if he could talk a little bit about that.
Okay. VML has developed a handbook basically on ethics and how pretty much anybody who's operating any type of organization should behave. What we're trying to do here is to make it part of Colonial Beach practices. It becomes a condition of employment for everybody who works here, including the council, anybody that's on any committee in any area. So there's a lot of safeguards in here that help people know what their rights are and how we're supposed to conduct business, like the proposals that we're putting forth. It's supposed to get bids, it's supposed to be open, it's supposed to be transparent. It lays guidelines for maybe future committee, an ethics committee. This would be a guidebook or a rule book for them to go by. And that committee would have to be composed of just citizens, nobody who works for the town, and nobody on this council could be part of that committee. Each person will get a copy,
That's correct.
and they'll basically sign off that this becomes a condition of employment. There's so much in here. It's not a very large book, but it does cover, I'd say 99.9% of the issues that could come up. It's just a good customer service. It's a good way to operate a business. It's just to keep us in line and help us to do the right thing. And I believe you can go online. Sometimes the links let you see the manual, sometimes it says you have to pay, but I don't know why. It just seems to do that.
Just Google ethical GPS
And again, it's a foundation, it's a building block. One of the goals of this council, there's an award for ethics that we're going to try to get that award at some point in time. And the process for that award would be that from the top down, meaning the council to town management, to all the managers, anybody in the town supervision, all the way down to the person, everybody that works for this town, will have to show that they comply with these rules, and you get nominated if you demonstrate that you follow these types of procedures. I think it's a good thing for the town to say, hey, I got to see it. It's like in the Boy Scouts, you get another award, you get another badge. It gives the town credibility when we apply for grants. It puts us in better light. I'd like to see Colonial Beach the shining star. Step out in front and say, okay, we're going to be the best that we can be. We're going to try to do the best we can in all areas. This is just part of it. This whole council, we have a whole lot of ideas, and we really do encourage everybody in this town. We need to put up a list up there. We haven't had the time because we've been doing a lot of other things, to make a list for you to sign, to join and volunteer for a particular area. I know there's a ton of expertise out there, and that expertise can help us to solve the problems that we have, and we need to try to join together to do this as a whole community.
Okay. The resolution reads, Resolution 12-13, approving ethical GPS. Whereas employees and public officials of the town of Colonial Beach have an obligation and responsibility to the town and its citizens to help prevent fraud, waste, and abuse. And whereas the Virginia Municipal League has written a document called the Ethical GPS, which sets forth an ethics code and compliance reporting policy appropriate for public officials of the town of Colonial Beach. Now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and council this 14th day of February 2013 that the attached document published by the Virginia Municipal League entitled Ethical GPS is hereby approved and shall be incorporated into the town of Colonial Beach Employee Handbook. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
This one, because this is an important one, we're going to have a roll call vote.
Who is the second? I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Carden.
Aye.
Mr. Edwards.
Aye.
Ms. Goforth.
Aye.
Mr. Seaver is absent. Ms. Brubaker.
Aye.
Mr. Chirillo.
Aye.
Mayor votes aye. Next thing on the agenda is Resolution 13-13, authorization to enter into lease agreement with the Colonial Beach Lions Club. This is a public hearing on this, so I will read the resolution and then open it up for a public hearing. Whereas the Colonial Beach Town Council seeks to enter into another 5-year lease with the Colonial Beach Lions Club for the property located at tax map 3A1, Section 2, Block 40, lots 11 through 22. And whereas the Colonial Beach Town Council conducted a properly advertised public hearing on February 14, 2013, and whereas the Colonial Beach Town Council agrees with the terms of the proposed lease between the town of Colonial Beach and the Colonial Beach Lions Club, now therefore be it resolved by the Colonial Beach Town Council on the 14th day of February 2013 that a 5-year lease of the property located at tax map 3A1, Section 2, Block 40, lots 11 through 22 for $10 per year to the Colonial Beach Lions Club is hereby approved, and the town manager is authorized to sign the lease on behalf of the town. So would anybody on this side care to comment? Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering why the Chamber of Commerce has to pay $500 a year and the Lions Club $10.
Mr. Ham, I'm sorry.
Could I ask you to come forward and just state your name for the minutes? Thank you. I don't want to be in trouble with Kathy.
Joyce Thor, 100 Taylor Street, with Jared Thor Fine Arts. No, I was wondering, because it came up earlier, why the Chamber of Commerce pays $500 a year for our rent for the Chamber building, and the Lions Club pays, if I just heard it right, $10. Does that seem fair?
And I think I could add some, maybe Monica can add more. I do believe the Lions Club built the building that's on the property, and that might be one of the reasons that is really leasing the property. I don't know if that's a justification for it.
I don't know if it's a justification either, but that is the truth. The Lions Club did build the building, I think, in 1950, and they maintain it. They pay all the maintenance on it. I don't know what we do with the chamber. Does the mayor know? Do we maintain it?
No, you made it.
The Lions Club did build that, it wasn't in the 50s. That building the Chamber's in was the office for the banana slide when it was down there. Town didn't build that building, they had to refurbish it a little because of some problems, but the town didn't build the Chamber one.
Well,
I think the other reason, and I hope we have some people here from the Lions Club, they're absolutely a nonprofit. They bring in very little money. So probably if we charge $500, they would close. That's one of the reasons. They give out free glasses and free hearing aids and the exams. The chamber at least does have the ability to bring in some funds.
Well, I would think the Lions Club does too, and I'm not here to say that. I just want to say it just didn't seem fair, and we've heard a lot of conversations about it, and people wanted to know, why is it that we pay more? And so, if that's your answer, that's what I'll tell them.
Well, may I speak, Mr. Mayor? I knew prior to the chamber moving into that building, Ms. Thorne, the town had spent several $1,000s installing the new bathroom and fixtures and all back there. And at the time when it came up for lease, after the town department moved out, that was the building planning zoning office, public comment indicated to the town council sitting at that time that they should charge more and try to recoup some of that money that we had spent to do the bathrooms. I don't know if that is helpful to you, but that actually was part of the process.
Well, I didn't know it, that's what we paid until just recently, and then it came up, and a lot of people were saying, well, it didn't seem fair when somebody pays this and somebody pays this, and we're doing things for the community of the town. That's all. I just thought I would try to get an answer. Thank you very much.
Just a little bit of history there.
Okay.
I need to make a correction. I was thinking of the building where the dance line was, that's where.
The tourism building.
Tourism.
Right.
Chamber building, I believe, was the old hardware store. Greenlaw, that's right, Greenlaw had it.
That was before my time.
Yes, before my time too.
Anybody else that wants to comment on the proposed lease? Yes, please come forward.
My name is Paul Bronco. I'm the horse in my throat. I'm the president of the Lions Club. And I noticed in this lease agreement, now you've included the sewer utilities, and you know, because we're a nonprofit organization, I mean, that $840 a year is going to really cut into the amount of work we can do. Now, we keep the building up in maintenance, and we've upgraded bathrooms, and fixed our heat pump, and repaired the roof. We maintain the grounds and the trees and the leaves. That's quite an expense. Now, if we have to add the water and sewer on there, I mean, that's going to make us work an awful lot for nothing. You know, to pay that, we use very little water. The building may be used 3-4 nights a month. You know, the only water they use is the bathroom. We don't do any car washes or anything down there. So,
The reason we had to include that is we've had to change the town's method of charging for water and sewer. In the past, we have not charged nonprofits. We never had the authority to do that. And to keep our bond rating, to keep our bonds that we have with RDA, USDA, we have to certify that we are now charging everybody. So starting in April, we have got to start charging the churches, the nonprofits, everybody that wasn't paying before now has to be charged. And to not do that, we jeopardize keeping our bonds, and if we lose our bonds, if they call the bonds in, we might as well close the town down. So that's the reason we had to include it this time.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
If I may, sir, I had the pleasure to serve as King Lion in the Upper Marlboro Lions Club, so I sympathize with you. I understand that your dues are hard to come by, and therefore you're not in the business to make money. But all the nonprofits in town are going to be paying that amount. And I spoke on behalf of the Catholic Church. They go to Mass and they use very little water as well. And I understand your concern. What are your dues each month or quarter?
well, we pay $70 a year.
And how many members do you have?
At the present time, I believe 17.
Well, I sympathize with you. I can imagine that will be a hardship. But not to speak on behalf of the council, but I think our hands are tied in that matter.
Mhm. That was all I wanted to say.
If I can help you all, the county has to do that too now. This is one of our top building inspectors for the county. We have to charge, the county has to charge the school system water and sewer. Now, how ridiculous is that? But because of the grants and this and that, it has to do it. To me, that's the dumbest thing, taking it from the right hand and giving it to the left hand, but we have to do that, and you all now will have to do it too.
Yes.
Mr. Rasavi and a few people went down to try to, with Senator Stewart last week, to see if we could do something about getting a law passed to ask for a reduction for income, Social Security, and this kind of stuff. I don't know how far that's gone, but they're trying to see if the state will amend their law to allow reductions and things in that. But we've had to do it in the county for a while now. It's terrible, but that's their rule. Their hands are tied and the county's hands are tied. Sorry, Paul.
And if the gentleman at the podium, something else that came up at the work session when we were trying to figure out where we stood on this, one of the things that came into play was we actually polled other local governments in the state just to find out where they were on this policy, and we were convinced, we believe we're the last of the Mohicans with regards to that. We're the only ones that we can confirm that we're giving nonprofits a break. And as much as it bothers me too, we held out as long as we could. And the regulators involved in these bonds were nipping at our heels right up to the last minute. And I know that doesn't help your situation, but maybe you can understand we don't like it either.
Mr. Robertson,
Yes.
do you know when the county may get an answer on that?
The General Assembly's got to do that. They got to pass the law. I can keep you posted on how it works through, but I don't know where it is. It's in committee. But
Okay.
whether it'll get out this year or not, who knows?
And I would just point out that our requirement arises out of our bond documents, so even if they pass a law, it's not going to change our contractual obligations. We have separate contractual obligations.
Because they're written into the contracts that were binding prior to this.
Right. We'd have to refinance the bonds. If we did that, it's possible it could change, but...
Even if it were a reduction, I mean, not waiving it entirely, but if it were a reduction, we'd have to rewrite it.
And one thing I'd like to say is this council did a thorough job trying to find ways to minimize the impact to all the organizations. We did not find a way to do it. We were just bound to you know, the contract that we have for the bonds. And maybe hopefully the community would be aware of your situation, maybe the community would come forward, new members, donations and things like that would help you out.
Thank you.
Anybody else care to comment on this? Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing. We will now take action on it. I've already read the resolution. Do I hear a motion?
Yes, Mayor.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Mr. Jordan?
Aye.
Mr. Edwards?
Aye.
Ms. Goforth?
Aye.
Ms. Brubaker?
Aye.
Mr. Cirillo?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Next on the agenda is Resolution 14-13, authorization to enter into lease agreement with the Colonial Beach Historical Society. Whereas the Colonial Beach Town Council seeks to enter into another 5-year lease with the Colonial Beach Historical Society for the property located at 128 Hawthorne Street, commonly referred to as the Museum Building, map 382-2-75-5B, and whereas the Colonial Beach Town Council conducted a properly advertised public hearing on February 14, 2013, and whereas the Colonial Beach Town Council agrees with the terms of the proposed lease between the Town of Colonial Beach and the Colonial Beach Historical Society, now therefore be resolved by the Colonial Beach Town Council on the 14th day of February 2013 that a 5-year lease of the property located at tax map 382-2-75-5B for $10 per year to the Colonial Beach Historical Society is hereby approved, and the town manager is authorized to sign the lease on behalf of the town. With that, we will open the public hearing. Anybody care to comment on this lease? No one, we will close the public hearing. I've already read the resolution. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Ms. Goforth, did you second?
He beat me. Tommy did. Thank you.
All right, any discussion on this?
Well, it's more of a, making a notation for the record that this lease is essentially a, is, but for all intents and purposes, identical to the Lions Club lease. And that includes the water and sewer arrangement. I just want to make sure that we put that out there. It's not something we wanted to do, but we're pretty much in a position now where we're going to do no other option.
Okay, any other comment? Okay, we'll vote now. Mr. Carton?
Aye.
Mr. Edwards?
Aye.
Mr. Cirillo?
Aye.
Ms. Brubaker?
Aye.
Ms. Goforth?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Next, we have the 2 resolutions which were added to the agenda. First is Resolution 15-13. Whereas the Colonial Beach Town Council seeks to obtain services of a consultant in order to answer some of the following questions. Is the current employee structure as efficient and effective as it could be? Do we have the correct positions to serve the community? Are the job descriptions accurate and up to date? Is the council effectively communicating goals to the employees? Are the employees effectively executing against these goals? Is there an appropriate performance management system in place? Do our current employees have the right skill sets to succeed? Do their skills need to be augmented through additional training? Is the town compensating its employees properly? And whereas the Colonial Beach Town Council seeks to establish and develop a leadership team that, with the assistance of other employees and volunteers, will have the tools to execute the goals and objectives set by the council, including 1, broadening the tax base by attracting new residents, 2, broadening the tax base by attracting businesses, and 3, creating an attractive, inviting, and safe environment in which to work and live. And whereas Mr. Cirillo, as the leader of the administration committee, obtained 3 written proposals in accordance with the town purchasing policy. And whereas Mr. Cirillo recommends the selection of Whitestone Partners, who propose a 2-step process which would not exceed a total of $17,000 for the first step and $10,000 for the second step. Now therefore be it resolved by the Colonial Beach Town Council at its regular monthly meeting on the 14th day of February 2013 that the proposal from Whitestone Partners for the first step of consulting work is hereby selected and approved. Consideration and a commitment to step 2 will be determined at a later date, and be it further resolved that the town manager shall be authorized to sign any and all necessary documents subject to the review and approval of the town attorney in order to fund step 1 of this consulting work up to an amount not to exceed a total of $17,000, which shall be paid out of line item number 4-100-011-010-5936.
5836.
5836. 5836. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
We'll vote on it. Ms. Brubaker.
Aye.
Mr. Cirillo.
Aye.
Mr. Carton.
Aye.
Mr. Edwards.
Aye.
Ms. Goforth.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Next on the agenda is...
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, before we go into this resolution 1613, may I ask our town attorney on this that's coming up, would it be possible for the council to go into private session to discuss this before we read this? Is it possible to do this?
No, sir, I don't think there is an applicable exemption.
Okay, I just thought I'd ask.
Okay, Resolution 1613. Whereas by resolution dated April 9, 2009, the Colonial Beach Town Council eliminated the mayor's office from Town Hall, and whereas the Colonial Beach Town Council now seeks to ensure that there is a secure place at Town Hall for the exclusive use of the mayor and members of council for conducting the official business of the town in order to best serve the citizens, now therefore be it resolved that there shall be a secure place at Town Hall for the exclusive use of the mayor and members of the council for conducting the official business of the town for the benefit of the mayor and members of the town council. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this motion?
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I may, for the benefit of people in the audience, it was a topic of discussion. It's been a topic of discussion almost since April 9, 2009, when this action was taken, of how to get back to where we were then. And it was also a topic of discussion in the candidate forums, and there was a clear consensus among the candidates on the dais that we needed to put this back right. And this merely, no one should be trying to read anything into it, just putting things back to where they should be. The mayor needs an office, the council needs some place to do their thing, and I'd sure like to have a file cabinet someplace so I can get rid of the pile of stuff in the corner of my dining room. And that's all it is. And I just want to put that out there.
Can I ask a question? Can we all keep the same copy of the same minutes in one file, so we don't have to all have a copy of the minutes? We can probably save a lot of trees.
Do it electronically.
Just a thought.
Okay, any other discussion on this? Okay. Mr. Carton.
Aye.
Mr. Edwards.
Aye.
Ms. Goforth.
Aye.
Ms. Brubaker.
Aye.
Mr. Cirillo.
Aye.
Chair abstains, and I will give my reason for abstaining. I think there would have been a better way to handle this other than by a resolution. However, the resolution passes.
Andrea, could you help us out here on council? it's hard to understand, how can we, when we need to talk to council only,
Me,
or if we need to, well, I don't know if
Council
we need
and attorney
to,
or
do we need to have you in our, if we go into a closed session, do we need you in there?
no, sir.
We don't need you.
No, sir.
Well, can you guide us on how we need to, like, if it's got to go on an agenda, so it needs to be shown, or do we have to do that?
Yes, would you like for me to do a little bit now?
Well, no, I mean, if you could maybe send us all emails on telling us how we go about going into a closed session legally.
Okay. You have, may I answer just, I'll be happy to send you a detailed explanation, but I think it's easier to talk it through. The state code, through the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, says that everything is open. All meetings are open, all documents are open, everything from the government is open. It says that there are some exceptions to that. It says that exceptions are to be construed narrowly. So when in doubt, you err on the side of that the exception does not apply. The exceptions for going into closed meeting that are most often used are for the discussion of the hiring of a specific position, the firing or resignation of a specific position, the performance of a specific person. We can go into closed meeting for me to give you advice about a specific legal matter where it's not advantageous to do that in public, to discuss a lawsuit that has been brought or is imminently going to be brought against the town. Economic development prospects where no prior announcement has been made, real estate acquisition or disposition. Those are kind of the most common ones for closed meeting. And the way that you do it is you make a motion, and the motion has to cite the specific exemption, and then it has to give more detail. I've gotten some questions about whether it's sufficient to say, we're going to go into closed meeting to discuss personnel. It is not, and there are advisory opinions from the Virginia Freedom of Information Act Advisory Council that specifically say that. If you're going to go into closed meeting, it's supposed to say, I move that we go into closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1 to discuss the performance of the town attorney. And then somebody moves it, there's a second, and then there's a vote. But you see there's the naming of a particular position. But yes, I'll be happy to send you a memo laying all that out.
Andrea?
And one other thing, when you go into closed meeting, you can decide who comes in. I mean, obviously, if it's for legal advice, an attorney has to be in there. But if you want to go in to discuss the performance of the town attorney, I would not necessarily have to be in there. You decide. It's your purview who comes in and who isn't.
Okay. One of the things that I'd like to address is that, at least for myself, okay, I might have been here for a little bit, I'm still new. There's still a lot of things to learn. I still feel awkward. And an orientation to be able to teach us certain things that are in existence, like going back and forth on the procurement policy, finding out the rules and stuff like that, and kind of, chasing down the information. I don't know if there's any formal way to give us that background and experience.
I would love to. And I can work with the town manager,
Yeah,
and we
that would
can
be
kind of
great.
figure out.
Just simple things like, I know someone asked me the question, if I email everybody, it's considered a meeting, but I can email the town manager and she could broadcast it to everybody.
Right.
Okay, can I email the town manager and email you and copy everybody?
Yes.
So if I copy them, if they're under the copy section, just like CC, not addressed to them, that's not considered a meeting.
Let me give you, there's no short answer to this.
I'm trying to work the system.
Okay. There's been case law on this, and there are a couple of cases that are out there. Right now, the case law says that email exchanges where there's a gap in time between the emails are not a meeting. That's the current state of the case law. Maria Everett, who's the head of the Freedom of Information Act Advisory Council, she does what she calls her road show, and she does trainings. When she does her trainings, she recommends that council members not email back and forth with one another discussing matters. Her best practice advice is if there's something to be shared, that it be shared through the town manager or through the town attorney, some other central staff person, so that there isn't an ongoing email discussion. The reason that she recommends that is that the case law is evolving in terms of the proximity of one email to another. In the original case, which was out of Fredericksburg, there was several minutes between emails. Well, our emailings, I think we had dial-up then. Email speeds have gotten faster, and I think what Maria is anticipating is the day when a court says, all right, look, you got 15-second, 30-second intervals, you guys are basically having a meeting outside of the public having access, and this is not right. I think she sees that day, and I agree with her. There's currently a case that is pending before the Virginia Supreme Court out of Northern Virginia that addresses this issue, and that could be the case that tips the balance. And so she just urges caution in that area. And I agree with her. There's no sense in pushing it. You don't want people thinking that you're having secret backroom meetings and, deciding things outside of the public's view.
Right.
I don't think anybody wants that.
Well, it's kind of like we're doing with things now, where one person will go to you and talk to you about proposing a resolution, and you kind of fan it back to the rest of the council. So that's the understanding that doesn't constitute a meeting. And what I'm trying to do is to find a more efficient way of communicating. Like
Efficiency is not one of the goals of the Freedom of Information.
No, it's not. And, trying to set up something where, say, if Tim calls you with a question, and you have an answer, and you kind of cascade it back to all of us. And then I have a question, and you provide an answer, and you cascade it back to all of us, not just to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that way would help ensure that we all
get the same information
at the same time, so to speak, and it makes it more efficient.
Sure.
So if that's something that's acceptable to you and to the town manager, it might help the efficiency in the communication mode, and we would all feel comfortable, because it's hard, to know if we're in the loop, to get information. And we try our darndest to communicate with each other, but it's hard, it's really, really hard. We try to make sure we're only in one place and only seeing one person, and those types of things are sometimes difficult, because, there are events that we participate in, like the parade. Does that constitute a meeting?
Not if it's purely social.
Right.
You're just talking about family and current events and things like that.
How do we handle going to meetings that we want to attend?
You just
Sitting out there like a citizen does, but we end up with more than 3 of us there.
As long as the conversation remains social and you're not discussing matters of public business, then it's fine. What you want to refrain from is saying, hey, I want to talk to you about item number blah, blah, blah that's on the agenda next week.
Well, I don't think of a zoning meeting as being social, but we're not talking to each other about it. So is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Well, the thing that related to that has come up on several occasions is, say, there's 3 or 4 of us at a planning commission meeting, and we got something we want to say. Well, should we? you know, at the podium.
Absolutely. Mhm.
Because they're gonna hear what we got to say, and, you know, that
Yes.
doesn't.
It's the discussion amongst yourselves that,
Right.
that causes it to be a meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, and you probably remember from the trainings that you've gone to that there's a notice requirement for posting a meeting and there's a minutes requirement when there's a meeting. So, you know, those are some of the pitfalls. If I could put in one more plug about FOIA. The day may come where someone makes a FOIA request for your emails. And I've noticed that some of you have different email addresses that you use. I would encourage you to use the email address for town-related matters that the town has set up, because it will make it easier on you for staff to help you respond to the request than if you have to go to your AOL or your Yahoo or your Gmail and you've got to pull some from that and pull some from the Colonial Beach and so on and so forth. I know it's hard to do. I'm guilty myself. Sometimes I don't realize which email address I'm using. It just kind of pops up. But if there's a way that you can segregate it, because then you don't have to go through and weed out the emails from your daughter, from the emails from Mr. Curtin, and it just makes it easier.
One of the things I try to make a practice of doing is because I have my town email auto-forwarding to my personal one, and then when I reply back to whomever, I CC my town email address on that reply as well.
Oh, well,
so it's there.
Yeah.
So that way I end up getting two back every time. I just flush one, but the town email account remains.
It gets on there. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
One of the last questions, you know, we talk about what we can't do and everything, but then what's the penalty? If we do something wrong, what do they do? Do they come, this is a silly question, they smack my hand and take me out of council? I'm just curious.
Oh, no, you get to still stay.
Or do we get a fine?
You get a fine.
Oh, well.
You get a fine, you get, let me look up the exact fine, because they increased it. The worst part of the penalty, truthfully, is the attorney's fees. Lately, what I've seen is generally any kind of a significant FOIA challenge is $10,000 to $15,000 in attorney's fees. It's unbelievable. The way that FOIA works is that violations and penalties. The penalty is $500 to $2,000 for a first offense, and then for a second offense, it's not less than $2,000 and not more than $5,000. And here's the thing about FOIA. It's kind of like why you should care about this boring law. There's a form on the Supreme Court website that any person can download and fill out. It probably takes less than 5 minutes. All they have to do is allege a violation of FOIA, file it with the court. They don't have to have an attorney. The Commonwealth's attorney can prosecute it, or they can hire an attorney. They have a choice of filing it in the general district court or filing it in the circuit court. It gets priority on the docket, and I believe it has to be heard it's usually within 10 days. I mean, they rock it forward. The next thing you know, you're in court, and if somebody makes out a basic allegation of a violation, then the burden shifts to the locality to show that we complied with the law. So unlike most cases where somebody who brings a lawsuit bears the burden of proof, in this, they sort of bring it, and then the burden is really on the locality to show, no, everything we did was right. And I've handled several Freedom of Information Act cases, and I've handled them successfully. But you do have to be careful. And it's one thing in the heat of the moment to play something fast and loose, but when you're in court and you're trying to explain to the judge, and a judge is also, sort of a public official, and that judge looks at you, the public official, and says, well, why did you do this? What were you thinking? And so I'm always very conservative when I interpret the Freedom of Information Act. I don't think that it's an area to fool around. It's not in your best interest. There's no point in spending taxpayer money to deal with these types of cases. And the penalty that's levied must be paid out of your personal pocket. It's a civil penalty against you personally. So, but I love to talk about FOIA.
Okay, now we'll move on to the citizen input.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, I'd like to explain to our audience why our town clerk is not here this evening. She had triple bypass surgery and is recuperating at home, and I'd like to send her our well wishes.
Okay, now we move to citizen input. Since we don't make you sign your life away board, is there anybody out there that would like to step up and make any comments? Yes, sir.
I attended the planning commission meeting early in
Could you tell us your
January.
name and address, please?
Pardon?
Your name and address?
Martin Brandt, 18 Virginia Avenue. Who owns the boardwalk from Colonial Avenue to Lincoln? It has not been maintained or touched. It's covered with gravel since October. Planning Commission claims that the town don't own the boardwalk. It's been turned over to the town manager, and I'm waiting for an answer from her. Documents showing that the town does not own that boardwalk. It's a hazard. Anybody walking on it, well, you can't do much walking on it. It's covered with gravel. Virginia Avenue. I'd like to find out if somebody can give me an answer when or who owns the boardwalk.
We're in the process of determining that right now. And as soon as we know, we will be sure to let you know.
Okay.
We're going to try to solve it once and for all.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that has any public comment?
I think John wants to give an answer.
Oh, yeah.
Sir?
Buddy.
She was going to make
Mr. Chair, I ask that I share with you that we are in the middle of getting title searches to resolve the question of the ownership of the boardwalk, Mr. Brand.
We have to look at each individual parcel.
Who do I contact to get it cleaned up?
We gotta find out who owns it first.
Yeah, once we,
Depends on who owns it.
As I say, the town's claiming they don't own it. They've maintained it ever since it was put in.
That's what we're trying to ascertain is whether if the town owns it, it's the town's responsibility to maintain it.
Right.
If they don't, the town's not allowed to go on private property if it's not owned by the town. So once we ascertain the ownership, then we'll know whose responsibility it is to maintain it and keep it cleaned up.
The deeds for two members that are on the boardwalk, their deeds cover to the edge of the boardwalk. They do not cover the boardwalk. That's been researched by property owners. I'm not a property owner on the boardwalk.
But we are going to get that answer. Okay, is there anybody else out there that would like to comment? Yes, Mr. Jarvis.
Welcome back to Florida.
Just came back, just tweaked Carol, and she said she's in the Hard Rock Cafe down there because it's raining, it's pouring rain on here. Jay Jarvis.
Y'all are hateful.
225 Bound. Mr. Mayor, council members, but just three quick things I'd like to talk about. I won't bring up the gypsy wagon yet. I think we'll hold off till April when we take on those discussions. But I want to compliment the new council and mayor on last year, on 4 separate occasions, I brought up that we have some wonderful talent in this town, and to, if you could see to reorganize your committees where local residents would sit on those committees with the town, rather than it be kind of an ancestral sort of thing within the staff. I appreciate it. Looks like you're going in that direction, and I do appreciate this council listening to me, where others in the past I don't think did. Second thing, Mr. Mayor, you know my thoughts on the mayor's office. I agree with you. I know you and I slightly disagree on that, but the mayor and the committee needs a professional office up there to meet businessmen, potential developers for our town, and to be able to present a presentation of what Colonial Beach is, demographics, a slideshow, whiteboard up there, TV shows, something that will sell our town to developers, business, and future residents. But so be it. Be professional, and I like the way you're going. That sounds good. We get our mayor's office back, and you guys can use it too, I guess. The other thing that I'd like to talk, we talked about, you're going to have somebody coming in taking a look at the staff. The town is not business friendly. We know that. I know you're working in that direction. However, one of the things that's really outstanding about the town is how youth unfriendly it is. I mean, it's terrible. How tourism, we talk a good game, but we really don't do anything. The Chamber of Commerce does that tourism. They do an outstanding job. But we don't do much in tourism for the town. Again, we have a tourism committee that does some things. We're now getting some advertisements out. Looks like that's in a direction. One of the things that I think we could take a look at, we don't have a Parks and Recreation. Now, what does a Parks and Recreation do and look at? If we had a Parks and Recreation section, would it take a look at our boat ramp and how that's being maintained, how that's being used, how that's being funded? The boardwalk. We have Public Works doing that up and down there. Is that good for Public Works to do, or is it a subcommittee under Public Works? Where is our Parks and Recreation? Where is that one element within the town that chooses to hire us summer help? Again, 2 years ago, going through the African American Congress, they got $300 million for jobs programs for youth in the summer that was available to the town if they wanted to go after it. If we had a Parks and Recreation, now, I don't like hearing, I know I heard it before, the L word. I hate the L word. And so,
Could you enlighten us what the L word is, please?
don't like, oh, we'll be liable if we do that. We might get sued. We can't have lifeguards because the town, our insurance won't cover lifeguards. We could have had youth lifeguards on there. Home Depot was willing to donate the things for lifeguard stands, to build lifeguard stands. Going to have 4 of them down there on the beach. But we don't have a Parks and Recreation that can pull something like that together. Parks and Recreation in other towns sets up farmers markets, sets up bike paths, sets up these other activities in the town. Right now, we're laying everything on the Chamber of Commerce to do. Where's that chamber here? They're doing everything for us. Parks and Recreation, we need that part within the town to start working. And that can be bringing in summer hires, can be maintained as part of that boardwalk. Can maintain part of that, instead of diverting Public Works people that could be doing some more important things out there. I think that covers most of it, but I do think we need to take a look at, with this survey, are we set up as a municipality, a town, or a young city properly? And I think we could take a look at some of these other activities that we have down there. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to comment? Yes, ma'am.
Mary Parker, 3038 Riverview Drive. I'm just here for some clarification. I missed the first meeting, and please forgive me if you've already given this information. But Father Ron has retired from St. Mary's, and our senior warden is terminally ill, and so I, as junior warden, have been kind of responsible for many things these days. And I have a meeting next week, and I just want to be sure that I bring the right information. Regarding the sewer and water tax, it's based on the number of connections, is that correct?
Yes.
And who determines the connections? The town, St. Mary's has 2 connections, 3 connections. Who determines that?
That is determined by our Public Works Department based on the actual connections. And if you would like to leave me your number before you leave the meeting, I'll get the numbers.
Okay. And is are the nonprofits charged just a blanket charge regardless of the use of water in one place being more or less than another?
No, it's a standard rate. The base
standard
rate
rate.
is what they'll pay.
Okay. And will any meters be involved?
We hope not, but we have talked about maybe we might put 1 or 2 out just to see what the usage is, but we don't intend to charge based on the meters for the nonprofits.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else out there that has any public comment? We're getting off easy tonight. Okay, that closes the...
Can I make a comment to Jay?
Yeah.
Hey, Jay, before you leave, I want your phone number because we have many volunteer sheets, and if you'd like to join one, we could set you up real easy.
You can be on Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I think I kind of missed my chance to, I wanted to recognize some people that have actually come forward on the economic development area. Linda Chiarello has graciously offered to be my point of contact on the revitalization committee. Desiree Urquhart has offered to be my point of contact on the planning commission. Ms. Marion Miller and Mitzi Sappos have also come forward and offered to help me, but there's never enough. I mean, and so please, your help and guidance and talents will be appreciated. We need everything we can do.
Well, on that, I'll just say that finance hasn't had any volunteers. Have you?
I have a couple of people that have your number already.
Well, they haven't contacted me. And Jim and I are co-chairing jointly administration and finance. So we're looking for volunteers. I know it doesn't sound like fun, but Jay, if you recommended this, then get out and get some people to sign up.
Don't listen to Wanda. It is fun. This is fun.
That concludes the citizen input. Is there a motion to go into a closed meeting?
Yes, there's a motion.
What do you want to, I'll help you.
Well, since we had...
What do you want to discuss?
Personnel. This would be for our past chief of police and for our town manager.
To discuss the performance of the town manager? We can only discuss the current employees, so we can discuss the.
All right, possible lawsuit. I think we need to go into closed session.
Could I just ask for a break to talk with Ms. Goforth? Just 2 minutes.
Take a 5-minute break.
Thank you.